Great. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. We're going to give it another 60 seconds or so, a couple of minutes for our audience and our registrations to trickle in and log on. So far, we've got our first 20 already with us. We'll give it a few more before we kick it off fully. Gonna remember for the future to put waiting music on for this time frame, get us in the mood. Okay, I haven't seen my attendee number tick up too much in the last minute, so we're going to go ahead and kick it off. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our Beyond the Headlines webinar series 2, Unfiltered Conversations with Students and Parents. My name is Audrey Duhame. I am a Director of Partnerships for North America at Acumen. I support all of the universities who work with us who are based in North America, many of whom have students on our panel or parents joining us today to speak about their experience in Canada, whether studying or family members of theirs who are studying. We know that the last 18 months have been a little different for Canada-India relations. There's a bunch of immigration policy changes going on in Canada. There's also been some headlines and some chaos a little bit back and forth, which is why we really are excited to bring some real student stories and some real parent stories to you so you can ask your questions and feel more confident about what the experience actually is for students studying in Canada. With that in mind, I'm going to begin to kick it forward with some introductions from all of our panelists. We'll start the session with some scripted questions that we prepared beforehand, but after the first 15 or 20 minutes, we'll move to answer audience questions. You'll note that there's the Q&A function in the Zoom meeting. Please feel free to write your questions in there. We'll either answer them live here, or some of my members of my team are also present and they'll be able to type back to you. And anything that doesn't get answered here, we'll aim to follow up as long as we've got your contact details. So with that, I am going to go ahead and pass to Dia, who was kindly our first panelist to show up today. Dia, could you please introduce yourself and tell our audience why you're here today?
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Dia, and I'm in my third year of Queen's University. As you can see, that's Queen's in the background, our lovely campus. And I'm studying life sciences here at Queen's. I chose Queen's and Canada because of the people, because of the culture and the community. And Queen's as a campus and university is also an amazing place to be in. And it's taught me a lot in my experience here. And I'm very happy with my decision. And I hope to share some of my insights with you guys. Yeah.
Volunteer next.
I
can
could
go.
Sure, yes. Go ahead, Garima.
Oh, go ahead, Nidhi. That's okay. Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. So I am Garima Sharma, and I'm in my now third year. I just completed my second year 3 days ago of global health, and I'm doing an honors degree at York University. And I am also a President's International Scholar of Excellence here. And I chose York mainly because, yes, it was the scholarship that definitely attracted me, but more than anything, I was very excited to come to Canada. All the great things that I had heard, and the communities that I had seen from afar really attracted me. And yeah, I really like it here, and I hope that we can tell you more about it today.
Fabulous. Niyati?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Niyati, and I'm currently in my fourth year for psychology at York University. I basically chose York University as an international student because of its diverse and inclusive community that I could see sitting in India itself that fosters global perspectives, making it an ideal place to grow both academically and personally. And the university's strong emphasis on experiential learning, its location in the vibrant city of Toronto, they offer endless opportunities for me to connect, learn, and thrive. And I hope I can tell you a little more about it today. Thank you.
Rish, representing the last of our student panelists this morning.
Hello everyone. Good morning, good evening. This is Krish Kokani from Lakehead University. I am currently studying fourth year of mechanical engineering with majors in maths. Uh, what else do I have to say?
So you're at Lakehead, fortunately, from your background, but how did you pick
Yes.
Lakehead?
How did I pick Lakehead? Okay. Well, Lakehead was offering really good scholarships and it's still offering really good scholarships to international students. Plus, I chose Lakehead over a metropolitan city because it's easy to survive on part-time jobs here. Like it's easy to find and work and save foremost, and it falls under the RCIP and well, back then RNIP PR plans. So
Excellent. Some good reasoning, and I think we'll dig into that a little bit later here as well. And last but absolutely not least, Rashi, would you kindly introduce yourself representing parents here today?
Hi, everybody. Am I the only parent here? All
You
right.
are today. Hmm.
All right. Good evening. So, my son, he is in his final year of computer science engineering at UBC at the Vancouver campus. And he has, I want to give you my insights as a parent. And the cherry on the cake is that, as I said at the beginning of the session, that I recently, last month itself, spent good 15 days at Vancouver. I observed things very, very carefully, and I want to talk about it, supplemented by all the other reports that are being circulated in the media for very vested interest without naming and getting very personal about it. I think I really would like to throw some light on what kind of apprehensions and because I'm a lawyer, I want to also give a perspective of that what kind of changes in the recent past have been announced in the immigration laws. And I see absolute rationality in announcing those changes. We'll talk about that later, but I think we need to look at it from a very rational lens rather than from a very Indian centric approach. So because whatever changes have happened, they've happened for international students. But we need to look at it from that lens and not from the lens of India-Canada relationships. So I think I want to give that perspective in my discussions today.
Thank you so much for that. Rashi, that absolutely sort of echoes what we learned last week when we brought some of our university admissions officers on to have a discussion of the effects of these immigration changes and that they're not specifically targeted, that these are actually changes that, had Canada had been kind of aiming for a while in order to actually better align student experiences at the university with potential labor outcomes. And so I'm really glad that you've got that perspective to echo here today. So, with everybody's introductions established, I would love to launch into some of our sort of first questions, which is just the last 18 months. You guys have all been on the ground in Canada. Has anything changed for you in sort of your day to day, as we know that things have changed on the headlines and in certain policies and things? Has anything really affected you, or how has your day to day been? I will call on Garima. Do you think you could speak to this for us? Have you felt any impact in the last 18 months of the headlines that are going on?
Personally, I have not. My day-to-day on campus has been pretty much the same. I go to class, I go and study at the library like normal. I hang around, I participate in the campus activities. So it's been pretty much the same. People here are not as um, constantly affected. At least evidently, it's not really there. But other geopolitical tensions have been visible, which honestly has not been too bad because of a lot of like student protests going on. We've had a chance to come together as students, and I love participating in them. It's like people coming together for a common cause, and it feels very nice to have like-minded people on campus. You participate in protests together. You call people out for things that you know are wrong. That has been quite delightful. But besides that, I have not seen any impacts, thankfully. And yeah, life has been pretty smooth here.
Excellent. That's nice to hear that. I appreciate you adding the component of activism there. Again, there is that opportunity to get involved in certain things on campus, but that is a very sort of, proactive approach instead of just sort of, as you said, not so much freaking out about the headlines from day to day, in that sense. Do any of my other students here want to speak to that point?
Yeah,
Not a
sure.
favorite point. Okay, go ahead, Dia.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to say that since Queens is in Kingston, Ontario, it's a smaller university town, so to speak, and it's I've honestly felt incredibly safe, even though it's a small town. There's been a community that's been built up over the years, and which is I think really built up morale, and I've not felt my day-to-day life change in any way. And I think that an experience that most people I've spoken to and I've heard about have had as well. So yeah.
Excellent, lovely. Trish, would you mind from our conversation yesterday? I think you said something similar about, not being in a big city and so not seeing too much impact on campus. Could you elaborate?
Yeah, sure. So, because it's a small city, we didn't have those activism acts that took place in the bigger cities that was all over the news. We still had people with the same intentions here, but it did not affect us much because I think there was no clear big motive behind that. Um, of course, when there was like the attacks on the temples and stuff like that, the tension was like, should I leave the house or not? Because it's going to be not that great. But turns out it was fine. We had cops' cars going on to make sure everything is in peace and protest. Like there was no big issues going on anywhere. And it's like as a student or even when I went to work, I didn't feel any stress. It's just if you want to closely be part or you want to get involved with it, you might see effects, but so far as you are like away from the topics or away from all those chaos, you're like fine.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. So again, there was concern or worry, but ultimately you found that, there wasn't too much of a significant change as far as, yes, there might be protests and they might be visible, but there's adequate security, there's adequate permitting. Protests are, done legally and in a normal and, perfectly fine and safe way. And if you don't want to be involved with it, you aren't. Which again, or, on the other hand, if you want to be an activist and get involved, those are options as well. But again, I think that's a really helpful thing to understand that even though you had your concerns again, as events might have happened, ultimately you rolled with it and you were able to see everything moving smoothly within just a couple of days. So at least that's what I am picking up. Niyati, any final thoughts on this?
Nope. I feel like I would agree with almost everyone here, especially with Garima. Especially at York, I felt very safe and supported as an international student, and I feel like the campus community is very, very welcoming. And there's a lot of support system here, even though if my day-to-day life was affected, but my day-to-day life was not affected at all. So yeah.
Excellent. Thank you all for speaking to that point. I think that's really reassuring for us. I am going to see if Rashi would like to speak on how she was feeling, not being there in Canada. And then that can perhaps lead us on to some of those tensions that our parents might be feeling right now.
All right. Yeah, it's a good platform for me to first of all set the premise that everything that from the mother's perspective, if I say purely from the mother's perspective, since I recently visited and stayed there for 15, 20 days, I found absolutely no reason for me to worry as a mother that my children or my child is not safe there. I I went, drove all the way to Surrey. I spoke with many people there in my own different ways, from going to the grassroots level of even the taxi drivers, interacting with all kind of students that I was meeting during my stay. Not even once anybody said that they feel unsafe. They say that, there are these little pockets of protests happening here and there, but those are very peaceful. It doesn't impact us. We don't see any kind of discrimination being done just because we happen to belong to other part of the world. I also visited the campus. I saw, I think my child and many of his friends were very comfortable. They did not show me any absolutely any sign of any apprehension, any insecurity, any regret. My son has been in Vancouver for about 5 years because he, and that's why I think I can give another flavor to it, because for about 12 months in between, he took a study gap and he worked in Toronto for his internship. So he's seen not only the student life, but the work life also. And this was last year, 2023, when things had kind of, started to, if I may say, quote unquote, fall apart. Um, he just kept saying, he just kept reassuring that, Mama, don't worry. Everything is fine. This is all escalated out of proportion. These changes have been done to filter out a particular set of community. But for public universities, there is absolutely no reason to worry. If you have enough funds, if you have enough support mechanism, there is absolutely no reason to worry. I was just sharing with Nidhi just a week back that it was rather disappointing for me to say that when I came back, and very recently, I met a parent whose son was in UBC School of Business. And she gave me a very different picture. She said that, she said that I don't know why this whole sentiment has started, but she gave me a picture that when she landed in Vancouver, she had a very if I could say, not very comfortable feeling. And she decided to kind of wind up and, get back her son ASAP. And when I asked her, because I was actually very curious to know what was there, what troubled her. And surprisingly, she couldn't come up with anything concrete. She just said, all she could package for me was that Rashi, media news is very disturbing. And I don't feel that my child is going to be safe there. But as a prudent, educated parent, I really wanted to be intrusive in asking her what exactly. Unfortunately, she couldn't come up with anything. She only had media reports to talk about, which is sad, which is sad. Because
Yeah.
as educated parents, I think the least we should be expected of is to make reasoned decisions and not get colored or influenced by what kind of reports are being circulated. Because trust me, I think I just want to end my discussion here with the fact that almost all media campaigns are sponsored and directed towards a particular campaign.
Yeah.
And that is unfortunately what is happening in the case of India, Canada. the reverse migration, why we suddenly see posts on the social media and Facebook that Canada is not a good country, let's go back to India. I think we as educated lot of the society should see that there is something else driving this kind of a campaign. And this is not what it seems like.
Rashi, I think these are incredibly important points, and I couldn't have said them better myself, and so appreciate you bringing them to the forefront. I think it's, I think personally, I have a lot of respect for your, I want to say, private investigating skills of wanting to come over and really understand this for yourself, to hear the people on the ground and hear what's really going on and make your own decisions. Because, yeah, when you're halfway across the world and all you have is somewhat hyperbolic or sensationalist news, then of course people are going to get concerned and worried. So I want to pass this to our student panelists. How have you been supporting your parents through this? Have you also had to talk about headlines and reassure them of your safety? What kinds of conversations have you had? Let me know.
I can go first. That's okay. I think every parent has concerns when it comes to their child's safety. Mine also did. I got a lot of worried phone calls like, "Are you okay? Is everything fine?" But I just let them know the truth, that it was honestly okay. And somewhere we knew that the Canadian government, the way they were putting news out, was being done in a very extreme way in some ways, where it was being um, almost manipulated through media, where certain policies were trying to maybe implement certain changes, but it was shown as, oh my God, Canada does not want immigrants anymore. They do not want this, they do not want that. And I think with media headlines, it was tougher to believe them when you actually see the main websites where the laws were actually published. It was not that bad. And yeah, just letting them know that no, it's all good. It's okay. Same thing that we all said here. I think we just let our parents know that no, business as per usual. We're going to campus, we're studying, we're going to work, we're okay. Yes, you sometimes have those conversations where both I and my parents, both of us were worried, but it was fine. Letting them know that we're fine, talking to them every single day, sometimes twice a day, and just making sure that they know that I'm okay and that I'm eating, I'm sleeping, I'm all good. That's it.
Fine. That's lovely to hear. I was going to ask, I was like, how often are you talking to them? Is this daily, weekly? No, once and twice a day. That checks, that about checks. Krish, you've unmuted?
Yeah, I would like to add to Garima's point. I completely agree that news doesn't play a great role. I mean, if it's happening in some part of Canada, they portray it as the whole Canada, and Canada is like so much bigger and huger. As like something is happening in, let's say, Vancouver, there will be like people or family whose kids are in Toronto, they'll be like, "Hey, are you okay? We see this is going on in Vancouver, but is it affecting you?" We're like, "No, there was a snowstorm in Vancouver. That has nothing to do with us. We are okay." So yeah, again, like just making sure that they know that the news is not for us. Like something happens in some part of India and we are not worried because we know it's not going to happen. So news is not the best always to portray. So I would like, if something is actually happening, I would text myself and be like, this is happening and I'm just going to be there. That's okay. So yeah, just like checking up on your parents and making sure they are okay. Well, now they know it's been like a long time. They know what's good for us, what's not. This was like, during the initial phases when they were like worried very much. Now I think once you cross like the 2 year mark, they're like, okay, they know you're going to be fine because like you came at a very young age and now you're like what, 23, 24. They're like, okay, it's all good. So that's it.
I love that. And I think again, it's also reflective of I think that transition you go through when you going away as a student, you have to kind of help your parents out, it becomes a dialogue because they can't just do what they want to make you perfect, happy, safe, and healthy all the time. You got to tell them, no, I'm doing it myself, which is pretty cool. Niyati, Dia, anything to add to how you've talked to your parents over the course of your studies away, and what their concerns have been?
Um, yes. So I would mostly agree with Krish. I would say that the media was a little there was a little confusion about it. Some things were happening in Vancouver, and the baseline of it is that you have to reassure your parents and tell them that you're okay. I would talk to my mom about like once or twice a day as well and tell her like I'm okay, I'm in control here, and there's nothing that's bothering me as much. So yeah, I feel like I would talk to her, and we would have a lot of conversation about what's going on, but at the same point of time, she would know that I'm okay, or she would know that I am in a good place, essentially.
Excellent, excellent. Now, have any of your parents personally visited your campuses over, recently or at all? I see a
Not
nod from Yati Dia. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom was
Okay.
able to come when I just moved into university, so that was in 2022. So she'd been came to Toronto and Kingston for a couple of weeks, so that was really nice. She got to really get a feel of the place and the community, and we were lucky that my older sister actually studied in UBC and is now working in Toronto. So we had a different glimpse of Canada, and we'd always known of what the community and people are like, and which was really comforting to them before I even left for university my time. So yeah, that was really nice. And they even got to see the work life culture, how it was then, how it is now. And yeah, it's all honestly nothing but positive. So yeah, that's been great. Yeah.
Fabulous, fabulous to hear. Um, Rashi, did you want to speak specifically about how your opinion changed or that experience at UBC visiting your son, what you walked away with after that experience?
Sure. I think I want to go back 4 years back. My son moved into Vancouver in UBC when he was in his when he was in the first year. This was just when the COVID era kind of phased out. It was a very difficult time. We couldn't accompany him for obvious reasons because there was no visas available. He traveled to Vancouver on his own, a 19-year-old boy, traveled through Mexico. And I think what I want to say here and why I'm giving you a perspective to this is because despite all these odds, I think as a country and as a community, he kind of managed to settle himself very well. See, where I'm coming from is that a young, shy boy settling on his own, finding his own hostel, checking into what do you call that? That 1 week phase quarantine.
Orientation.
So,
Oh,
yeah, checking into a quarantine hotel, finding a place for himself, um, everything that could go wrong with him went wrong with him, Audrey. Um, he lost his baggage. He couldn't find his baggage the very first time he landed in Canada. He had no clothes with him for 10 days. But what I'm trying to say is that despite all these odds, not even once did he complain. So I am very certain that what this is actually indicating towards is that the culture was inviting enough. And the authorities were empathetic towards, the fact that students are coming in, international students need support. So all those things play a very vital role in how a student settles down during the first few months. And because I could not accompany him, and as an Indian parent, we love to kind of settle our own children. We love that, you know. I don't know about the other part of the world, but we are very concerned as mothers. So, uh, and because of all this tension escalation happening in the media, I very desperately wanted to visit my son. He kept saying that everything is fine, don't worry. Despite his things, I wanted to spend the biggest Indian festival, Diwali, with him. And that's why I said, no, I have to come what may. whether you like it or not like it. But back of my mind, back of my mind, what was happening was that I wanted to see how he is. And I insisted that I go and see his residence. I insisted that I go and see his campus. I invited his friends over, and that's important for everybody to know in this webinar. So we had 10 of his close friends over for a dinner on Diwali, just for a very casual conversation. And I was trying to make a sense out of everything and kind of thrash it in my mind that everything is fine. So, I was asking everybody, a couple of his friends are already working, a few of his friends are in second year or third year in different disciplines. So, not even once anybody told me anything apprehensive or negative about the culture. So, I think that was the reason why I wanted to visit him. I think my purpose was fulfilled. I also, and as I said, when you take feedback from um, communities like the helpers, the taxi drivers, everybody around, you really know what's happening on the ground. And that's what I did. Many Indians, I think more than Vancouver, Toronto has many more percentage of Indian population there. But all this in mind, I badly wanted to visit him. And when I came back, I had a sense of relief. And I'm not saying this for the sake of saying it, but after spending 17 days in Vancouver, I had a sense of relief that he's in the right place. He's he's hopefully going to go back to his full-time job next year in May. Um, and I feel that, despite all the negativities, I don't think I have a reason to dissuade him to come back to India or look for some other territory. Um, I think he's fine. So, as a very, very orthodox, conventional Indian parent, I came back satisfied, just to answer your question.
That's so lovely. I mean, thank you for taking us through the entire thing. My heart is always overwhelmed to think of you around the table with 15 of your sons, friends from university and enjoying Diwali. That's just delightful. So thank you again. Thank you for doing what I think every parent wished they could do, which is, to take that 15 days, 2 weeks or what have you to go spend that time in Canada on the campus. And for every parent who can't do that themselves, thank you so much for bringing back those stories. I think it's really helpful.
Thank you.
To my student panelists, let's get back to how you chose Canada and how you might have adapted. I'd love to hear the key thing that stuck out to you to help you make your decision, and or if we want to get to the beginnings of what you had to adjust to once you got to campus most. Just speak to a little bit of that.
I can go first.
Thanks, Krish.
Okay, perfect. So, while once I finished my grade 12, I was like very consistent on not getting my bachelor's from Mumbai University for sure. I was thinking on maybe traveling to the southern part to get it from either IIT or NITs, and COVID hit. So it was a wonderful journey. Then the exams got delayed and everything, and then I started looking out for an option outside for that. I met a counselor randomly one day, and he's like, "You should try Canada." I'm like, "Oh, I don't know," because my parents and grandparents were not ready. They're like, "No, you can just go for masters, not for bachelors. It's very tough." Blah blah blah. So then eventually they were okay. It took me a long time convincing them, and then we started looking for options. Meanwhile, the Indian institutes also started accepting, but I applied to a couple of universities, and then I started looking out for options. I spoke to senior students in different universities, and Lakehead was a really good option because of their scholarships they offered. Also, sorry, why I chose Canada? I was planning between US, Canada, and Australia. And then
Okay.
again, I don't want to go in depth, but when I weighted out my options, US had some negative options. Meanwhile, Australia also. Well, it comes down to the work culture and stuff like that. As an engineering student, Canada was one of the best options I could get. Again, different faculties might have different, better opportunities somewhere else. Uh, for me, it was good for Canada. And then while I came down to engineering, Lakehead was a really good option because of their faculty to student ratio, plus the scholarships, plus it was really affordable to live in a city like this rather than to move to a metropolitan city again. And it ranks really good when it comes down to engineering among the other universities in Canada. So it's in, I think, top 10 or top 5 recently for engineering. It came down to that number. So that was a good reason. And then again, after coming here, I don't regret my decision because the faculty has been helpful throughout, and it was a really great experience, I would say.
Excellent. I know when we were talking, so firstly, thank you for taking us through that because I feel like that decision process from which potential country do I even go abroad all the way to which university and is it down to which degree I'm picking at which university, there's a lot to think about. And you were even mentioning, you reiterated today you spoke to a lot of senior students, and now you are one of those senior students who's speaking to incoming students about your experience at Lakehead and passing that on to them. So I just think that's awesome. Do you want to add anything to that and how you've been able to help the next generation or do some recommending?
Yeah. So, well, while I started only as an engineer. And then when I took my admission here, it was again COVID, right? So my visas were stuck and stuff like that. I had to do a semester online, which was very bad because I was like up all night and I used to sleep during the day. It was a stressful journey I would not go back to. Again, after that, so from booking a place and stuff like that, seniors helped me out a lot. After coming here, I spoke around and I found my ways out. And I found out that by doing like 6 or 7 extra courses, I would get another majors. So
Oh,
like
cool.
by doing like 6 extra courses in maths, I am getting my second majors. So I'm like going to pass out with like 2 bachelor's degree. So it's going to be like really good for the same price, I think, whatever. So
Nice.
yeah, I would say like just talking to a lot of people and to a lot of professors and students, your seniors especially, it helps you get through that. So just keep
Amazing.
connecting. Like if you're like a new student, if you go to Facebook or Instagram, you would be finding your like university pages, and you would see people. You can just follow them and start talking to them, and then end up they would connect you. Like a lot of people, when I met, they're like, we are in business, but our friends are in engineering. We can connect you through them, and stuff like that. That's how it all goes in. So
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, those I mean, it's one of those, and I'll reiterate to our audience here. All of our universities present have a representative that's here present on the call that's locally based in India, and they can also help connect you to somebody in the network, student ambassadors or admissions reps. We are hopefully continuing a part of the webinar as far as virtual office hours, doing similar things in the upcoming weeks. So again, if anybody here wants to get access to somebody they could connect with, there's obviously the groups on Facebook or WhatsApp or social media that you can find yourself, but we're here to help you find some of that information as well. As we are getting towards the end of the hour here, I do want all students to consider speaking on this question, but I wanted to remind the audience that there is a Q&A that they can access to put their own questions in. To the anonymous attendee asking about scholarship, we'll follow up with you individually about that. That's not something that our student panelists can speak to. But yes, audience, we're in the last like 15, 20 minutes here. So please lift your voices, throw it in the chat, let us know what you want to hear. And otherwise, I want to see if Garima, Niyati, or Dia want to talk about their decision process to choose Canada. Or likewise, Rashi, I do apologize, although you didn't make the decision to go to Canada, you were very involved in your son's decision to go as well. So if you guys want to talk to how you got to that process, it would be lovely to hear.
So sorry, I didn't get the question properly. Are you saying that how we decided to zero in on Canada?
That's right.
All right. That's an interesting question. Um, we didn't have any relatives, we didn't have any friends. Um, so we were looking at a few countries, Singapore, Hong Kong, um, Canada. Uh, I had already made up my mind that US is not where I want to send my child to. My elder brother stays in the States, and the immigration policies of US were also on a downhill. No, actually, I'll correct myself. I think immigration policies of Canada are not on a downhill, so I will not say also. I take back the word also. Uh, so during the 2020, it was a very typical year of the COVID era. Um, a lot of delays in the entrance and screening exams in India. Fortunately, we were very happy that we got an offer from UBC, and we had no reason to worry. Distance was a bit prohibitive. We were more keen towards Singapore and slightly closer countries. Hong Kong had already lost its charm for obvious reasons. The political tensions there were, in fact, very, very scary. But Canada was a very safe option, is still a very safe option. And that was, I think, why. And I wanted to truly give him the international exposure. I didn't want him to go to a community which is largely dominated by Asians. Not that I have anything personal against them, I'm an Asian myself. But I truly wanted to give him that, yeah, the international experience. And I think UBC kind of served all the purposes, ticked all the boxes. And I don't think in today's times, distance really makes too much of a difference. And I don't regret my decision. I definitely don't regret my decision.
Again, it's one of those things that I wanted to reflect on with all of our panelists. I forget that you're both the COVID generation and now the tumultuous immigration generation. So, you guys have been through some hardships and you've adapted very brilliantly. And again, to commend you all for it and for giving us your time to speak about those experiences here today. Thank you,
Yeah,
Rashi, for
and
talking us through the discussion.
just to also add, I briefly, what we as the little bit of economic background, if I may say, why these changes are brought in is not because of India or Pakistan or China in mind. It's the international students. They are trying to make some positive modifications to their own economy. As a country, they have full right to do that without causing any detriment to any particular community. So I don't think, we here get a very filtered and a very centered approach that God, India is at a, India is the target. That's the wrong perspective. They are trying to do some modifications to their own economy because they saw from last few years how um, dependent population is increasing, and why they need to make those changes. So I think we should just look at it from a very pragmatic perspective rather than getting personal about it.
Yeah. We really appreciate your again teasing apart some of those differences again between sort of what might be going on a larger scale, but then what's actually affecting us day to day. And so again, again, just really important points for us to sort of meet out here. Distance is really only a thing when it comes to how much you can worry and gain reassurance at times, I think. So but so with that, we've talked about how, our parents have had various concerns over your guys' studies, but initially they had to have been part of choosing Canada. And Rashi is clearly still very proud of her decision to help her son get to choose UBC. How does that feel for you guys now, choosing Canada a few years ago and now nearly ready to graduate? How did you get there, and would you like to reflect on that?
I can go.
Thanks.
I think in the beginning, choosing Canada was a very different thing. I was also deciding between the US and Canada. I applied to many, many, many universities in both countries. And what I was looking for was a place that was inclusive in nature, both with cultural diversity, but also with academic diversity. This was something that I saw in the US, that they would prefer someone with money over intellect. And it was a hard competition because they wanted people who were smart, who had money. I just didn't like that energy. I just thought that I wanted to be at a place which gave people a chance, and something that York talked about very often in a lot of their webinars and their conversations with students was that we want you to come here. We do not worry about what your academic background was like before this. We want to come, we want to welcome you, and we want to teach you things. We want to educate you. We want to play a part in your growth. And I really like that energy. And I still feel that. I am in my now third year of global health. I adore my faculty. They're one of the reasons I chose Canada, and I am so proud of that choice. All of my professors are so well read in their professions, and they're so smart. And it sometimes blows me away with how the lectures go. And they're very honest. They talk about the past of the world. They talk about the bad things in the world and the good things. Even though sometimes you come out of certain lectures raging and so angry at the world for why it is this way, but that's a part of learning. And then you face certain moments where you're like, okay, that's a good part of history. That's what we want to keep on going. And I think that's a big part of education here, is that they include things in history, which wasn't the case before. And I think Canada has done wonders to improve on it. They've involved Indigenous history in their education and actually studying about Canada's colonial past and making sure that people are educated on why this country is the way it is right now. And I really enjoy that. And I have absolutely no regrets in choosing my place. There are obviously, if you study abroad, my sister went abroad 8 years ago. Her story is what made me come here. I've been working to come here for 6 years, and through that work, I was able to get a full scholarship at York. So the full scholarship pays for rent, board, and tuition, which I am so, so grateful for. And it also allows me to actually think critically about being here. And I really like it because you see different people, you see different communities come together. I don't think I have any friends who are um, I have so many friends in this place that are from all over the world. I was expecting for there to be more Canadians and all of that, but I felt very welcomed. Most friends I have are international students. Some of them are really happy with their decision. Some of them go through troubles every now and then because we get homesick. We really miss home. And thankfully, there are resources to help you get through that. There are resources on campus. There's a well-being center at York, which I use very much. I go to therapy there. It's a walk-in therapy center and it's amazing. I go there. I have a lovely therapist there who has helped me get through moments where I needed a little extra support, whether that was through exam season, whether that was through holiday season back home, seeing my family celebrate Diwali and I was not there. And I just went in for a session to talk my heart out and just talk about how I was homesick. So there are moments where you're going to struggle. There are moments where you're going to be very happy. I think it's important to remember it's a bad day sometimes and it's a bad week, but it's not a bad life. Um, and that's what I like to remember. And if I ever get into trouble, I talk to my friends. I yap, love yapping, and I just call my parents. And so far, that's
No.
been great. Almost 2 years now. Um, and yeah, I really like it here. So yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, again, I think it just couldn't have been better said. That's really lovely to hear. You mentioned the resources on campus, but I think it's also important to note that you went and got those resources. It takes somebody to know themselves and know what they need to know that they need to go talk it out with somebody to reflect on what's going on, or that you're feeling too homesick, or that finals are getting to you. So I'm so glad that those are working for you and that you're, using them, those resources on campus, and they're there for you. So excellent. Krish, I see you're off mute. You got some thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean,
Cool.
I would totally almost agree with what Garima said. Uh, every campus has their resources where you can, go and talk. Uh, that's like a Canadian thing, I think. Every campus has some sort of support zone for academic, some sort of support zone for like mental, some international zone where the international students can go and chill, stuff like that. Uh, and of course, at this point in my like 4 years down, I don't regret my decision coming here. I think it's been one of the wonderful journeys. When I came here, it was my parents were crying because they had never seen their kid walk home in like minus 40 or minus 45 because it's like the first time thing, right? We are not used to this kind of snow and winters and storms. So like they felt bad. I had like severe weight drops and stuff like that because it was all new, right? Or maybe I was not cooking good back then. I don't know. But it's just a part of amazing journey. It's like the first stones are always tougher to go through, but then when I found my co-op, when I started working uh, outside at a retail store, and then eventually with my grades and everything, I also started working as a tutor for Lakehead University itself. So seeing all of this, my parents became very proud of it, and they're like, "No, that's where we want to see you." Because eventually they were like, "It's okay, you can come back. We got everything here." I'm like, "I don't want to come back because it's like this country will make you, or these decisions will make you kind of more independent because you get to learn a lot. If I was back home at this age, I'm pretty sure we spoke about this yesterday. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I would not be cleaning, not be cooking. I would just be chilling, studying, and hanging out with my friends all day. But here, I have like a set of responsibilities that I have to follow, and that's what makes you what you want to be honest. That helps you shaping a lot of it. And I'm pretty sure I like every student on board will be like they have gone through the same thing. And the most important thing is, yeah, of course you will miss your home, but I would say try making at least once a couple of years back home so you're still connected to your roots. Because every morning when you wake up, some days you won't have it, but the other days there'll be like a million or bazillion photos on your WhatsApp being like they had a party last evening or they celebrated. You're like, wow, on a Diwali, I am going to work, and there they are chilling and eating all amazing things. But of course, like when it gets close to festive, I'm pretty sure there's like courier services where your parents will keep on sending you stuff and you don't miss a huge chunk of food because you still have your mom's made sweets and stuff like that. But of course, like being there in person and being away is different. Like I haven't celebrated Diwali or Navaratri in ages, but I've again to add to that, there is like every now back when we came, it was COVID, so it was not there. But now, like last couple of years, every Indian festival is being celebrated in every city. Like I have had better Navratris here than in India. It's insanely good here. And Diwali parties, they are never ending. My dad is like, my Diwali ended last week. You're still going to Diwali parties in like fourth week of November. How is that possible? I'm like, I have a lot of friends. I have to go to everybody's house for Diwali party. So it just keeps on adding. So I think it's really good and I would not suggest anybody cutting out on these things.
Lovely. Krish, it was great chatting with you yesterday too, and I'll echo the same thing. You've clearly been through it and had to overcome some challenges between weather and learning to cook and taking care of yourself. But I think it shows the, mature graduating student that you are, that you appreciate what you've learned from those challenges and from going through them. So even if you're homesick, it's been worth it for what you've learned about yourself and grown into, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, so and just to add, like all of this times, like people from your university are always there to help you. Like I had the worst phases of my life where like the faculties helped me. There's like the academic support zone, the international support zone. They're like the people there, they're always there to help you in all the phases of your life. They're like they are the ones who arrange these events on campus for you, like Diwali and stuff like that. So it's all good.
So cool. So cool. Um, Niyati, I haven't heard from you in a hot minute. Do you want to add any thoughts as we get to the top of the hour here in the East Coast time zone?
Of course, yes. I would once again reiterate that I mostly agree with Garima and Krish, and I feel like when I first came here, I was also a little struck by how things go. It was a little different. I was scared, I was nervous, I was sweating, but at the same point of time, the support system here really, really works through you. I had so many friends. Everyone was so welcoming. Everyone was so nice. There were small clubs called ICA, Indian Cultural Association here at York. They really support you to connect to other Indian students so you can relate to them. But except for that, there's also like other clubs or other opportunities for you to connect with people. For anyone coming to an international university or to Canada or even to York, I would recommend get involved early, because in your first or second year, that would be the time to make your connections, and your third and fourth year is where you actually maintain them. So yes, basically that's how it's been. I would also agree there are some days where I'm not having it. I don't want to get up from my bed and go to work again or clean my house again. But at the same point of time, that's a part of life. That's something that happens to every single one, and I feel like it's just how you get through it. So getting advantage of all the support that you have around you. People can only help you if you want them to. So yeah, I would say it's been great so far.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. And again, I love that you're already talking networking, and I'm passing you networking advice as well. So we're passing networking advice on to everybody today. I love it. Rashi, you raised your hand. Did you have some final thoughts that you'd like to share
No,
with us?
I just wanted to, I actually have another engagement. So if nothing more specific question is directed towards me, I wanted to take your permission to leave and thank you for this opportunity. And
Yes,
just wanted to.
you're thanking me. I'm thanking you. And as if you've got the 30 seconds, we are at the top
Oh,
of our hour, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Rashi, thank you so much for giving us your time today. All of my student panelists, especially my seniors, very excited for you guys, very grateful for you spending time with us today to give your really authentic experience to our students and our parents who are on the call. Again, feel free, from us to you, we can connect on LinkedIn. Always happy to help network and support your future. But just, it's been delightful to spend this time with you. Thank you for sharing all of your thoughts with us today.
thank you. Thank you,
Absolutely.
everybody. Bye.
All right, everybody online, thank you so much for joining us. We are officially wrapping up our unfiltered conversations with students and parents. I wish you the best of the rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And again, have a lovely day. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so
Oh,
much.
thank you. Thank you for having us. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.